Hello, hello. Back again, day drinking with David. And I am very excited about today's lineup. It's just me and a couple bottles of Bourbon Rye. I'm actually going to start with a couple of brandies here from my old friends in Cleveland, Ohio. These are the Tom's Foolery Applejack, they call it. 100% apples made from local apples at the wonderful distillery in Chagrin Falls. Tom Foolery, we've been working with for years, and they have really incredible stuff. Tom Herbruck and his wife Leanne, he's been distilling for, a long time, since he was a kid. He got a still. His dad was a doctor and owned some vines in outside of Cleveland, where grape growing is not super simple. And he was distilling brandies for a long time. And when he started to get serious about it, basically when his kids realized that what he was doing was technically he got himself licensed. And made a really, really smart decision to grab a couple of stills from David Beam in Bardstown, the Beam family. And these were the old Baumberger's Schaeferstown distillery stills, known as the Michter's Jug House still. They were created in the 70s. For the purpose of really making nice. Yes, drink more Fortaleza. It's the best. Really for the purpose of having distillation in process when people came to visit. The Michter's brand was really pretty popular after the 50s and 60s. And so people would come to Schaeferstown, and distillation, was, typical modern 70s distillation, but on a pot still. And so they'd only run it a couple, maybe 1 week out of the year, out of the month. And people would show up and be like, well, where's the distillation? So they built these two little pot stills so that they could be distilling all the time when they had visitors show up. And Tom grabbed them, and they're, tiny little fermenters, 1 barrel per day. And I think he would originally planned to be doing Applejack, because this is sort of apple country, lots of orchards around there. And what you get here are some of the most special American brandies on the market. Basically the same distillate. I think one's already sold out. Maybe we still have the darker one is sold out. The other one, these were both distilled in May of 2012. So 8-year-old Applejacks, barrel 65 and 67. One went into, this one in particular, this is number 65, went into ex-cognac cask, and you can see the very light color. So that was quite a used cask, French oak, for 4 years, and then was transmitted into used quarter cask. So that is pretty interesting. The other one went into once used oak. And so very different styles, even though the base spirit is completely identical. The cognac cask, super fragrant. Apple, of course. More fresh apple, apple juice, crushed apple, green apple. Some other things going on, a little bit of spice, some stone fruit, some floral elements. Both of these bottled at Bottle and Bond. Oh yeah, almost like a candied, almost like a sweet tart, sort of bright, chalky sweetness on the palate for the 65, and you can see the much darker color on the 67 from that new wood. This has more of that caramelized apple. Well, these are lovely, and they're very, very limited. These are, each a quarter cask, so 80, 90 bottles. They're not going to be around for very long. To be honest, Tom only makes a tiny bit of Applejack. Of course, the whiskey craze certainly encouraged him. Interest in bourbon and rye to do fabulous stuff here with those two categories. Every day kind of like doing a different thing. So each barrel is totally unique. And they're starting to get old. The fun thing about, his stuff, he had distilled over the course of 4 or 5 years, several hundred barrels. And let me get the exact details on these. And we're starting to see some good age on them. Firstly, I pulled out the wrong one here. Firstly, a straight bourbon, that's the cask strength, and a bonded rye. Single barrels, each one of them, one bottle down at 100 proof. They're single barrels, so they can always be bonded. And then the after 4 years, as long as they're 100 proof, the cask strength bourbon is 110 proof. That's going to have been distilled in 2013, so almost 8 years. Bottled in November of 2020, 7 years and 9 months. And the rye, just a little younger. The rye is March of 2014. So his rye whiskeys, I think, are really unique. The pot stills are very, very different from typical production. He's using a lot of high quality grains, high quality barrels. Of course, he's not using traditional, Kentucky style warehousing. It's just a shed, open shed. So in the winter, these shut down pretty seriously. And in the summer, it gets really hot and humid. So the rye here, big, minty, piney, fresh cut wood. Some like lacquer box, almost like Elmer's gluey thing, which I don't hate. Some people might, but it's, as long as it doesn't feel planky, I'm okay with it. And this doesn't. These also love air. The pot stilled spirits, there's an oily richness that some of the, not all of it, but some of the modern bourbons doesn't sort of match. And it seems to really appreciate getting a little aeration like that. And they tend to get better in the bottle. Yes. Yeah. Super cinnamony, clovey, lots of spice. Not as, if anybody had the previous rye, that was just pure pine. I mean, almost to the point of feeling like flavored, almost like a Douglas fir liqueur. But this is a little more classic. The recipe here, I have it, is 6-year bottle and bond for the rye, 69% winter wheat, 27% malted rye. That maybe accounts for some of that earthiness, and then the rest of just 4% of 6-row malted barley. 6 days in the standard Cypress vat, small little wooden fermenters, and then double distilled on the jug house pots. So that went into a Independence Dave number 4, and at 107.7 proof, and came out of the barrel just a few percentage points lower in the concrete floored warehouse, which is literally at the Herbrooks house. They now have another facility. They sold the stills to Michter's appropriately, who now have them set up in their distillery downtown Louisville, and it's quite impressive to see in action. To be honest, I highly recommend you go down there and check it out. It's a very, very cool little system. Again, it's very different from typical modern bourbon production, but one of the better craft distillers in the country. And now Don's purchased a couple of cognac style alembic stills, and he's very, very confident in the quality of the spirit that he's getting off those. I've yet to taste anything. Wow, the bourbon is gorgeous, beautiful color. I'll get the mash bill on the bourbon. I don't have it committed to memory quite yet. This was 51% yellow dent corn, a nice high malt content here, 26% two-row malted barley, and 23% winter rye. So big barley component here, big rye component as well. It's a atypical mash bill for sure. It says a lot of dark caramel, a little bit of pepperiness, but not too much. Toffee, stewed fruits. Great sort of dusty oak tannin on the palate. Again, these love air, so I might come back to these at the end and see where they are. Although I'll need to, I haven't brought enough glassware for the entire thing. So yeah, the beautiful Tom's Foolery, that's K&L exclusives, really interesting, high quality producer out of Cleveland. I only found out, I heard about Tom's operation here and there. I think he was featured in Whiskey Advocate a few years back, because the stills, and he was doing some really, really interesting stuff. But I happened to pass by the distillery actually on a family trip. Then my wife's grandmother and grandfather live in Chagrin, which is a gorgeous little town outside of Cleveland. And we'd gone to visit with them, and they know we're in the industry. He's a pretty good drinker. She wasn't really, but she had made a little like homemade Baileys, which we had a little sip of like with tea, and it was so funny. Which was your favorite? Well, they're so different from each other. I think the cask strength single barrel bourbon, I think of the three, the Applejacks are so unique, and I'd say barrel 67 kind of speaks to the bourbon guys, where 65 will speak to the brandy guys. I like all the products, but if I had to choose one, it'd probably be the bourbon. So she made this little homemade Bailey's cream, and then we were leaving. I was sort of like, wow, isn't there like a distillery around here? And I kind of we kind of winged it and kind of showed up out of nowhere. And Tom and Leanne are just the most incredibly gracious and kind people. They kind of just took us in and showed us everything, and we've been buying barrels ever since. That must have been almost 6-7 years ago now. So it's been really interesting to see them grow, and I think it's still a tiny operation. I think he has a day job too as well, which is interesting. But it's a labor of love, and these are unique spirits. They're not they're not anything like Kentucky bourbon, but there's a lot going on here, and I think if you give it a chance, they'll reward those who take the leap. Mr. Westby, I'm so glad to see you here. Thanks for coming. Okay, I do have to void some of these glasses. Let's do these two. So moving on. What I'm going to do today is a little flight of high proof bourbon. I'm not going to reveal the flight until it's over. We're going to start with one of the favorites in the store. All the nerds know this beautiful bourbon. This is the OGD 114. Still remains, there's lot 1 on the back, lot number 1. Still remains one of the finest values in the store. If I could open the bottle, I should have done this before. A Jim Beam product, distilled at Claremont, and then aged and processed at the Frankfurt facility, which is sort of behind Castle and Key there, in between Buffalo Trace and Woodford. Gosh, this is getting tough. Make you work for it. So this is a high rye recipe. So this is the same recipe that's going into Basil Hayden. I have trouble getting like precise details about exactly what's going on here. Like Beam doesn't love to give us their mash bills or anything like that. And it's supposedly filled at lower proof than the standard makers. Oh, nice little spillage there. And bottled what must be relatively close, if that's the case, to cask strength, but obviously not at 114. It's always the same. That's actually lighter in color than that, the Tom's Foolery. Ooh, well, that smells pretty good. Right into the cask strength at 151. Yeah, baby, we're going full up. I wouldn't mind having a glass of champagne, to be honest, Gary. So hopefully that will follow. Although I think besides my day drinking, I think I'm off the sauce this week, according to my wife. So voila. Top Shelf Pours loves OGD. Yeah, it's hard to beat this bourbon for $30. On the nose, it's very it's the same recipe as basil, but it reminds me very little of it. I don't know if that's the warehousing or just the higher proof or what have you. Great nose. A lot of pepper. Caramel. Doesn't at all smell hot, which is one of the surprising things. I'm starting to feel like every time I taste something that's lower proof, I get more ethanol than the higher proof on the bourbons. I don't drink a lot of low proof spirits. I don't think we have a single. Maybe basil, I think, is 80 proof. We don't have very many 80 proof bourbons left on the shelf. Benchmark. Buffalo Trace, $9. Delish. If you got that Benchmark bundle or the Buffalo Trace bundle, that's what you're lucky to have, a $9 bottle of 3-year-old Buffalo Trace at 80 proof. But we did release a Taylor barrel this week that flew out of here. It was pretty badass. Yeah, there's not a lot of info on OGD. It's I think an underused brand. It's such a cool brand. I mean, they kind of redid the Bottle & Bond package relatively recently. And, if you ever find, of course, old, national distillers, like some of those 70s, 80s bottlings are just cracking. Just great texture. Big, bold spice on the palate. You definitely get the heat, which I like. But it's tons of almost like cotton candy mixed with peppermint. It's got a really fun. Did you do the EHT pick? Yeah. We already picked the Taylor barrels. I haven't tasted the NorCal one yet, so I don't know. But our barrel was really lovely. SoCal barrel was really lovely. It must have been. I'm sure it's lovely. Not a whole lot left, but also 10 years old, so it'll be a fun comparison for the people who got 2, but you'll have to let me know. Just for the people watching this later, someone's asking about comparison between the 2 E.H. Taylor barrels that we've done. And, seemingly pretty good response with the bundles. I think people, who drink bourbon aren't too upset to have a couple extra bottles of things that they know at decent prices, and this gives us access that we wouldn't otherwise have. So hopefully people are enjoying that. Wow, OGD, totally delicious. Hopefully they don't jack the price up on us on that one day. They keep trying, and then somehow we manage to keep the price low, and now they've locked it in at a lower price. Like on case 1, we used to have to buy 50 cases, and now it's not so hard. So the next one, another fave of mine. I've been wanting to try the new rye, which is impossible to get, but good old Wild Turkey. That's the rare breed, 116.8 proof. Wild Turkey, such a special distillery, still I think undervalued. Master distiller, just Jimmy Russell right on that label. Huge fan of Jimmy Russell. Oh, yeah, I had a little smoke on the top. I wish I had that on camera. Coming out. Kind of a fun, decanter-style bottle. Or not really decanter, but... Wild Turkey ruffles the feathers. Yes, it may, but, can't really argue with kicking chicken. I'll tell you what. It's not for everybody. It's not everybody's taste. They make a big, bold, powerful style. Part of what I respect about Jimmy Russell is that his sort of ethos is to this ideal or this idea of Wild Turkey. It's such an interesting brand. It's sort of started on a lark between some liquor company execs, and for many years was I wish more bourbon were non-chill filtered. I can't convince people that that's a thing, but voila, here we are, starting to get more and more. So the brand obviously, was very high end really back in the day, and it kind of in the last 20 years had a resurgence, and now we're getting more cask strength stuff out of that. Gorgeous color there. I'm a huge fan of Wild Turkey. I love being at the distillery. It's it's in a very Tyrone, very beautiful place, and it's very old school, and having the Russells there, Jimmy, Eddie, and now Bruce, who's involved, not the master distiller yet, because Eddie's just gearing up for Jimmy's still on, of course, but there's something interesting about having that familial thing. So when are the Knob Creek picks hitting? Ryan is asking. I don't know. Are there some coming soon? It would be NorCal. I haven't ordered those. I just selected a couple of barrels. Nothing super old. So rare breed versus Russell Reserve. Just different expressions of the same thing. It's not quite like looking for different flavors like you would see in Buffalo Trace, with the Eagle Rare being sort of one flavor profile and the Buffalo Trace being another. The big difference is 110 proof versus cask strength. In this case, for this batch, 116.8. Great old school spicy nose. Surprisingly less sort of caramel than the OGD, which, both of these are higher rye bourbons. Yeah. Chewy. Balanced, but there, big, bold. Speaking of picks, any chance that Joe Magnus unfinished bourbons coming back? Yeah, we keep asking on those. We haven't heard much from them. We try to keep that going. They love the finished stuff. The ryes. We got a tiny bit up north. SoCal didn't get any of the rare breed rye. It's something I know Bruce, as Vic mentioned, was super excited about. And we're hoping for not only rare breed rye, but maybe cask strength single barrels in the future, which I think would be a coup. We have 3 Russell single barrels coming that I ordered middle of last year, and there have been some snafus. They are still in barrel, I recently found out, which is, I guess, a good thing. I mean, at least they're not in bottle sitting on a dock somewhere. But those are still coming and allocated for KNL. We don't have an ETA still, but at least they're ours. Working on the next batch even. There was a big issue, cyber attack with Campari, and they I don't know if this has to do with our barrels or not, but they had lost a bunch of their logistical information, which is a real bummer. Do you ever cleanse the palate with certain food and water between different tastings? I find the best palate cleanser is bourbon. So yeah, no, I don't bother to palate cleanse or even wash a glass. So any chance of placing a capture on the checkout? Yeah, there's not a chance of that. It's apparently not considered best practice. And to be honest, the bots, this comes up every time we're here, are not the problem. There are a handful of people using bots, but if that were not a thing, you'd still be competing with 8,000 to 10,000 other people who are refreshing the page. So it's just a matter of supply and demand. The bots are annoying for when we have 3 or 6 bottles of something. But then again, we're using some mitigation. But in general, the real problem is just the fact that we have thousands of people looking at the site, that we have transparent pricing and inventory, and hopefully that'll change in the future. We're working on some things to make it a more turn-based sort of thing to reward our best customers. But someone's gonna be pissed off no matter what we do. Rare breed high proof at the same expression, but cheaper than the Russells. Yes, isn't that funny? I think it's maybe a little younger, the rare breed, and it's not so much cheaper, of course. But yeah, rare breed's a killer value. It's super undervalued. I mean, Wild Turkey in general is undervalued. You know, we can get the 101. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the 81, but we can get the 101 for sometimes 20, 21 bucks on the shelf. I think it's pretty killer value. But in terms of the actual bourbons, the Russells, there's, you know, the Russell Reserve. Well, I guess the single barrels, if you're talking about single barrel Russell Reserve, yeah, it's a different idea. Those tend to be a little older. The regular Russell's 10-year bourbon is, of course, less expensive than the rare breed. But we don't have it right now. So, I don't know. We've been having problems with the price on that as well. You know, of course, the Wild Turkey Ryes are also excellent. If you haven't dabbled in there, the regular 101 Rye is still killer. They've raised the price pretty significantly on there recently. Yeah, huge fan. And then the final, I sort of like took all the Eastern bourbons. Of course, OGD is distilled in Bardstown, but facilities are on the east side. So we're doing Buffalo Trace, Frankfurt, Tyrone, and this is the old Stag Junior. Everybody's into this stuff these days. It's so hot right now. The 65.55. The batch numbers, I didn't bother to look up in advance, but I wonder if I can see it right now. So yeah, a little Stag Junior here. I haven't tasted this in several batches because, of course, it sells out so quickly. And, you know, it's really tough to get. But, you know, high-proof Buffalo Trace, hopefully this will be a thing in the future. We're trying to get a more consistent supply. And then, you know, there's also been word, don't tell anybody, there's been word that there may be single barrel stags, which would be badass. Yes, so I guess this is 15. Thank you for being more knowledgeable than me in terms of those batch numbers. Can't argue with bourbon guys on that. Even darker than the last three. God, I have to say that the Tom's Foolery looks pretty dark compared to these guys. Beautiful color in the glass. Definitely more woodsy than the last two. I guess this would be a lower rye. This is, yeah, let's do the K&L pick. What does your liquor shelf look like? Feels like you open bottles and bottles. Oh, it's pretty small, actually. A lot of these bottles will get recycled to the staff. So it's one good thing about working at K&L. So I give a huge number of bottles away. I have a couple of, you know, gems on the shelf. I'm not a very good whiskey collector because I kind of open. We're hoping to pick a Stag barrel. Fingers crossed. Don't tell anybody. No, everybody knows this is happening, but we're praying. So we're trying. So I'm sure it'll be in a bundle, you know, of some kind. Hopefully, you know, with Fireball. That's what they're releasing a cast strength Fireball. And that's what, no, I'm just kidding. That's not a real thing. We are hiring. Yeah. Check out the, you know, the careers page. There's definitely some space in the operations side. Yes, we're hoping for that pick. This is great. It's definitely more woodsy than the other two, though. And the big difference here, of course, besides the likely lower rye, we don't know the specifics on the others, is that this is, well, I guess would be similar to the OGD. This is insulated brick warehouses, which would be similar to the Frankfurt aging facilities for the OGD, but quite different from the Wild Turkey one. So some similarities and differences there for sure. Are you heading down there this year? I don't think we'll be allowed to go to Kentucky this year. They are talking about sending samples, which is good. I mean, you know, certain things, you know, like the Taylor, they said you have a barrel or not, and, you know, we didn't really get to pick those, and we got to taste them, and they're good, thank God. I mean, of course they're good. But in this case, hopefully we'd get some samples. It's not like the good old days. We used to show up to Buffalo Trace back in the day, and, Comstock would come out with a bag of 30 barrels to choose from. Those days are long gone. Now when we go to the distillery, you get to sit in the room and taste in a nice little place with Bo and the team or whoever it is, and maybe get 3 or 4 samples of each, and they're all good. I mean, they do a lot more work maybe this year, nowadays, to make sure that everything in the single barrel program is great. Who's putting out the best MGP juice these days? Wow, it's hard to say, and it all depends on what you want to pay for it. I did just taste some excellent casks from, of all brands, Heaven's Door. So those are pretty special 6-year-old MGPs. The people who were buying a little while ago and who are savvy are getting some older stuff. Of course, if you want to spend the money and the time and the effort, some of those smoke wagons taste pretty gnarly. I'm not sure if that's their barrel selection or the finishing in the the hot Nevada warehouses or what, but those tend to be obviously very sought after. I think I've enjoyed every single one of the Smooth Ambler batches that we've put out there. I think 5-year-old MGP for $50. Yes, it's not the 12-year-old was, but it's super solid, and there are some really killer barrels here. This is really opening up nicely. Wow. Doesn't have the kick of the big of the daddy. Pretty seamless. Lots of cinnamon, clove, some interesting, almost tropicality in the palate. I like some of the old pepper stuff. Yeah, huge. Yeah, super into it, particularly the ryes. Some of the older ryes from Pepper are really solid. The single barrels can be excellent. That $40 single barrel, which some of them are Kentucky distilled, which is pretty interesting. They're 4, 5, 6-year-old. Certain people have enjoyed the Pinhook. I'm really excited for some of the new Kentucky distilleries coming online. Excited to try some of the Castle and Key. You guys probably saw MGP bought Luxco, so they're making a big push into Kentucky, which I think is really interesting. They've had a pretty wild ride these last couple of years, and that will certainly change the market. I don't know how that will affect our operations. MGP being such an interesting story and so crucial in terms of the growth of this category, particularly helping prop up some of these smaller producers and really creating those brands, and then not really, unlike the big legacy distillers, not really being able to convert that into a house brand per se. They have a couple, of course, that they do use, but they're not as prominent and prevalent, and that's just not their business. So it's an interesting model. Stag Junior is pretty tasty though, guys. Wow. I do have 6 bottles for you guys who are watching of Stag Junior. The first 6 to email me, David Girard, Girard at KLWines.com. First 6 in there. I'm sure you guys were waiting for this, or maybe not. I don't know. But I'm trying to do more of this stuff for people who are engaged, and we don't have that in-store shopping element, and we have a very tight system, but occasionally I'm able to finagle a couple bottles here or there. Look at you, Dan. Dan, you're in. I'm sure you're in. Let's have a look. How many people have emailed me? This is 210. Oh, bam. There you go. Vic, Dan, Leader, of course. Cody. Oh, here it's coming now. All right. Well, you guys can stop now because it's over. But that was fun while it lasted. Too late. Sorry, brother. David Girard, Girard at KLWines.com for future reference, but unfortunately, the quick fingers. Although if anybody had a bottle recently, I might skip them, but we'll see. Trying to spread out the love a little, and of course we're working on a system to do more of that with these rare bourbons. Did you get mine, or did it go to spam again? I think I put you on the list, but I'll email you back in any case. My inbox is a disaster now. This is a terrible idea. So I'll let everybody know. And yeah, not a whole lot else going on. Rare Breed, man. Rare Breed is such a killer deal. So is OGD for that matter. Not that the Stag Junior isn't lovely, but is it worth the hype? Is it worth all the work? Got a little cut on my nose. It's very odd. And it's certainly worth $50. Is it worth 150 or 250? Not when Rare Breed's on the shelf, but here we go. That's pretty much it, guys. Pretty quick and easy session here. Had some fun. Any questions, goings on? Next week I'm going to be tasting, looks like the Old Fitz Anniversaries, which is fun. OGD is High Rye. Knob Creek or Booker's also, no, it's a different recipe. It's supposedly the higher recipe from Beam. They don't divulge their exact recipes, although that's probably going to change soon. I mean, Heaven Hill recently announced all their recipes are public now, so which for years they were not. The Stag's pretty smells pretty good, I have to say. Definitely worth $50. The Old Fitz, no, sorry, Old Forester. I apologize, that was wrong. Old Forester Anniversaries. I got samples of the 3 batches. We're gonna decide which is best. I'm gonna be there with good old Ford's, our friends from Ford's, and we're gonna try the Officer's Reserve, the new release, and then the OFs, because they're now one and the same. And yeah, life is good. I think Joe's here right now. Maybe he was here earlier. But do you have any more old faux picks soon? They've just allocated our OF single barrels for the year, where once we could take as many as we wanted, we now are allocated 1 per market. So they're pretty good. Love that Warehouse H. Yeah, it was pretty tasty stuff. I think I tasted it here. Oh God, this is really opening up. I'm gonna fall for the hype, I think. Oh God, Stag Junior. Hello. Yeah, give it some time in the glass though, guys. Don't rush it. Yeah, so we'll have 2 barrels, hopefully as good as this year's. I'm sure they will be. Generally, we've enjoyed them. I'm bummed I sort of wish we could do some 90 proofs in addition to the cast strength, because those were killer, $40 deals, and it used to be something we could have all the time. And now, okay, yes, I get that the cast strength is sought after, but it's not any more bourbon or less bourbon than it was before. Not to, harp on this, but any other store picks coming that you are excited about besides those Heaven Hills that I just tasted? Heaven's Door that I just tasted, the MGP 6-year-old. I do have a new fun brand from MGP from our friends at Barrel. I'm not sure we're able to talk about it yet, or maybe I think the cola approvals are ready, so those will be fun. We'll likely taste them next week. And other barrel picks, focused a lot on Scotch right now. Bourbon, we're so beholden to what the industry allows us to do. There's not as much exciting things. We can't really, we can't really do as much as we'd want to. One thing about the industry now is you got to get really, really creative to do fun stuff. So I do have some things in the works, working on various things, and particularly the new distilleries. We got a lot of questions coming here. Did K&L do any single OF? We just had this question. We have 2 coming. They'll be here in summer. We haven't picked them yet. Any word on Russell's Reserve single barrel 13-year? No. Props for the Sovereign. Okay, you like those? I'm digging those. We have a whole nother container of barrels coming spring. So we're doubling up. Whiskey season all year this year. So much great Scotch, awesome Thompson Brothers stuff. We've got some killer, a young Ben Nevis, freaking monster, 7-year-old Ben Nevis, an old Tormore, some Kalila coming. We got some dope rums coming. I love the Kleinleach 23. Yes, everybody wants that. I do not know if I'll ever recreate anything quite like that, but I'll be begging Signatory for it. We're hoping to do some more Signatory this year, praying for these tariffs to leave. And that would help us a lot. I heard of OF picks are now 100 proof. Are you getting any of those? No, you get what you get, and the 100 you can decide either cask strength or 100 proof. So if I could take 3 or 4 or 5 barrels like previously at 100 proof, I would, and skip the cask strength just because we need the bourbon. All of the new whiskeys that are coming are not Thompson, all the Hunter Lang stuff. So I have a huge list. I'm happy to go over it. I literally have it right here. We have an 11-year-old sherry Blair Athol coming, a 9-year-old Daluin, young, fun, very cheap, and 12-year-old sherry Mortlock. 2 more of those bomb-ass 28-year-old Glenfarclas's, teaspoon Glenfarclas for nothing. Unfortunately, the dollar is a little weaker than it was, so the prices will be up, but still well within the range. Another one of these Tamdu 19 years, old malt cask. A 23-year-old Ben Rinnes, which is lovely. A young, easy-drinking Glentochers, 10-year-old. 27-year-old Glen Keith, all of these are teaspoon. A 21-year-old Inchgour, which I'm surprised to say we bought because I typically do not like Inchgour. No offense. An Orkney, I think it's 15, an Orkney distillery, and an 18-year-old Linkwood. So some classics there. The other thing that we are doing and hoping to do very soon is connect with Hart Brothers. They've got some fun bottled stock, and we're looking to put a little bit in the container. They've got these are a little more expensive than our typical stuff, but still pretty killer because they're all single malt. They've got a killer Bravel, sherried 17-year-old Bravel, as well as 28-year-old sherried Talisker. So that's pretty fun. Any Foursquare single barrels? I don't have any Foursquare on the docket from Golden Devil right now. There is none available. I have asked. There is more Coroni coming. There is a 19-year-old Hamden coming. There is the 25-year-old New Yarmouth coming, and we'll have some more of the old Golden Devil Navy. You got the bourbon picks list up too. It's just the classics, nothing unusual there. We've talked about that. OF coming. We've got the Russells coming. The standard list we'll see from Buffalo Trace in coming months. We'll have, it's unfortunate. The Talisker is nuts, by the way. Sorry to jump back and forth. But there's no huge changes in bourbon picks. Maybe a Stag Junior pick, fingers crossed. Maybe, there's a couple new brands we're looking at, and hoping for more. There's no single grain on the table right now. The prices have gone nuts. The single grain, I think everybody wants them because they figure they can jump over the tariffs or what have you, or blah, 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 blah. But I'll have to check again. I haven't checked in a little while. There's some Woodinville picks up right now that NorCal bought as well. So check those out. They're roaring. They're pretty fun stuff. And beyond that, nothing in bourbon. We're locking in a number of awesome Italian bottlers of Scotch too, which will include some nuts rum as well, sort of in the Samaroli style, but not the Samaroli prices. Well, nothing's really Samaroli, but getting close. So very, very excited for that. Anything similar to OP Kregaliki 16? That's a tough question. For sherry, there's not a whole lot out there that's straight up sherry. And, if you haven't tried it, that sherry finished Hepburn, the Hector Macbeth, that's a fun whiskey. It's 23-year-old Fiddick, finished for 3 years in sherry, but not just any sherry, not just one of these seasoning barrels, which vary in quality, but from an excellent old sherry butt that Hunter Lang had basically dumped, and they're like, well, this is obviously gorgeous. Let's just toss it in there. The color's really nice, and it's a proper really second maturation, not just a quick finish there. It's three full years. I guess the blue spot, someone's asking if that's coming. Supposedly, those are so limited. Red spot, we only got a couple of cases. Blue spot's going to be the same. Working on Cat's Eye. Hopefully that's happening. But it's slow going. It's the same distributor as our friends at Smoke Wagon, and they're great. They're friends, but it's very small, and so there's a lot for them to handle. And plus, those brands are super hot. There's a lot of interest in those brands. So working on it. Nothing else big in Kentucky that I can talk about yet, but hopefully there will be some fun stuff. Yeah, they're supposedly quite good. I like the bottle too. It's like very chic, kind of quite nice looking, which is not always the case for these new distillers, God, look at that. Stag Junior. It's a good batch. I guess batch 15, release 15, according to these wonderful people here. All right, guys, this was fun. Any other questions before I sign off? We got likely Thursday for those anniversaries next week. Definitely tune in for that. I might have a couple of bottles to give away there, maybe. So be ready. Get that email filled in. Otherwise I'll keep you updated. Lots of stuff always happening. So it's already March. This year's gonna be over before we know it. So hopefully they'll let us outside. I don't think we'll stop doing day drinking, but I might be allowed to do it, in person. Remus. I haven't messed with the Remus stuff. Nobody's presented it to me yet. I'd love to taste it, but we just haven't tasted it yet. So hopefully that's something happening soon. Someone's asking about the MGP brand, the Remus, which is a good brand, but haven't had any of their higher end stuff. Hope to taste it soon. They obviously have excellent stocks, and voila. But cool, guys. This was fun. Thanks so much. See you around.